like this part, like the outside part was inside, and there's like marks, like the Oreo thing in the cream.
They did it backwards.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started with social studies. Everybody needs a piece of paper and a pen, or your social studies notebook and a pen and paper. You need your social studies book, and we're gonna be on page 58, just like it says on the screen. All right. Now, let's see. We're going to start this new chapter. This is chapter 4 in our social studies today. And this chapter is all about the climate of Latin America. All right, the climate of Latin America. Does anyone have a guess? What does the word climate mean? Vic, what do you think climate means? Vic?
Oh, sorry. I just noticed I was muted. I think climate means like how the weather is, or how it's gonna be the weather. I really good.
Okay, good. It includes information about the weather. That's true. Matthias, you had an idea what is climate?
The usual climate. Oh no, I don't know. I confused. Sorry.
Okay. Let's look up here. I'm going to write up on the board these two words. Lots of times people mix these two words up and they say them interchangeably. That means they say one when they really mean the other, because they're very similar words. So they're words that we can get confused and use incorrectly on accident. So the two words are weather and climate. Okay, weather and climate. Now, if you look at the first paragraph on page 58, it says two words. Weather and climate refer to how warm or cold a place could be, how much rainfall it has, and other conditions of the atmosphere. Weather, that first word on the screen, is the condition of the atmosphere at a certain time. Okay, so weather is more than just, oops, weather is more than just the temperature. Weather is talking about the temperature at a specific time. So we might watch the news or the weather report to find out what the weather is going to be like on Monday, or if it's going to rain at 3 o'clock. Okay, that's the weather. The climate is different. The climate is the type of weather that is usually experienced in a specific place. Okay, so we might say the climate of Bolivia in December is usually hot and humid. Okay, that's the climate. If we said today it is cloudy, that is talking about the weather, a very specific time. Okay, both of them have to do with what is going on outside, right? Hot, cold, rainy, windy. But the climate is what is normal for a given area, specific place. And the weather is what's going on right now or right at a specific moment. Vic, you have a question?
Miss, do we have to write that down?
No, I just want you to understand it because we're going to talk a lot about weather and climate in the next few days, and you need to know the difference. Okay, so
Oh, okay.
weather is when we're talking about the temperature or the rain or the sun at a specific time or a specific date. And climate is the normal temperature for that place, the normal expected weather. Okay. All right. It's
Miss,
super.
may I go to the bathroom?
Vic, you need to not keep interrupting. Remember, I told you at the beginning of Zoom, you can always just go to the bathroom whenever you need to. Okay, so that we don't have to stop the class. That's the benefit of Zoom. Okay, so let's look at page 58. Who would like to read for us on page 58? Matthias, can you read that first column, please?
Okay, la one that says what is climate?
Yeah, that whole first part.
Okay. 2 words. Weather and climate refer to how warm or cold a place is, how much rainfall it has, and other conditions of the atmosphere. Weather is the condition of the atmosphere at a certain time. We could describe the weather one day in Guayaquil, on the coast of Ecuador, by saying the temperature of Guayaquil is 88 Fahrenheit or 31 Celsius. It is humid, but there is no rain. On the same day, the temperature in Quito, Ecuador is 60 Fahrenheit or 15 Celsius, and it is raining. The weather that day is different in Quito than in Guayaquil. Climate is the type of weather usually experienced in a particular place. We find climate of an area by averaging its weather over long periods of time. Guayaquil, Ecuador is in the lowlands near the Pacific Ocean. Year after year, the weather in the Pacific lowlands of Ecuador is hot year-round. Year after year, Guayaquil receives only moderate rainfall, even in the rainy season. So we say the climate of Guayaquil is hot, with moderate rainfall. That is what the weather is usually like. The climate of Quito is different from the climate of Guayaquil. Quito is only 164 miles from Guayaquil, but Quito is high in the Andes Mountains, while Guayaquil is at the sea level. Done.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthias.
I read.
All right. Alba, can you read the next part, please?
6 important factors from there.
What determines climate? Yeah, 6 important factors.
Climate. 6 important factors help create the climate of a place. Latitude, altitude, topography, distance from large bodies of water, ocean currents, and atmospheric circulation. Usually, latitude and altitude are the most important factors affecting an area's climate. Latitude is the distance of a place from equator. The equator, an imaginary line around the Earth, is 0 degrees of latitude and divides the Earth into halves or hemispheres. Geographers and map makers draw lines around globes or on maps from east to west. They call these lines of latitude, and Measure them in degrees north or south of the equator. The equator marks 0 degrees latitude. Each degree of latitude is about 60 miles, 97 kilometers apart. The North Pole is at 90 degrees north latitude, and the South Pole is at 90 degrees south latitude. Globes and maps also have lines running from north to south. These are called lines of longitude or meridian.
All right, can you stop right there for me? Good job. Okay, so really important that we understand what it is that we're reading. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question, everybody. All right, so if you had your hand up about something else, go ahead and put it down. And then if you want to answer the question, you can put your hand back up. All right, and Isaki, I know that you just joined us. We're on page 59 in your book. All right, so if we're talking about the lines of latitude, everybody show me which way, show me with your arms, which way are the lines of latitude going around the world? Are they going horizontal or vertical? Everybody show me. Latitude. Good. Everybody's arms should be going horizontal. Lines of latitude are, we can remember they're laying, okay? Latitude, laying, okay? They're going horizontal. What about lines of longitude? Which way are the lines of longitude going? Yeah, good. They're gonna go vertical, up and down. Okay, we use those just like we use on, like in math, when we want to find a specific point on a graph or something. We might say that it's at 90 degrees latitude and 120 degrees longitude, and that would tell us where those two lines meet a specific point on a map. Okay, so latitude is the lines that are going laterally, okay, they're laying down, and longitude is going up and down because they're long. All right, and where they meet is how we tell someone how to find something on a map. Genesis, you have a question? Okay, all right, so if we're talking about longitude and latitude, let me show you here on my screen, just so that we're all really clear. Okay, if I was going to have a map, okay, let's say this is my globe, okay? And on my globe, in my classroom, are lines, and the lines of longitude are going long, they're going up and down across my globe. Okay, and they're making lines up and down, long ways, so longitude. Okay, nice and long lines, longitude. Okay, and then there's other lines that are going to go vertically, horizontally across my map, and those are the lines of latitude. Okay, and the one that's right in the middle is called the what? What's that line that goes right around the middle of our globe? Someone raise their hand. Isaki?
The equator.
Good. The equator is that middle horizontal line. And what do we know happens at the equator? What is happening at the equator most of the time? Matthias?
Like they intersect the other lines.
Yeah, well, it does intersect with other lines, but what do we know that's true about the equator?
Oh, that it goes around. It like doesn't stop.
You're right, it does. It goes all the way around. It doesn't
I know.
stop. Marcos, what do you think? There's our equator, that red line. What is true about the equator, Marcos?
that from the bottom of the all the bottom of the equator is hot, hotter, and then above the equator is colder.
Okay, good. The closer that we are to that equator, the hotter it is, because that part of our globe gets the hottest sun. It's the closest to the sun. The parts that are up here at the top of our globe, at the top of our world, they are much colder. Okay, that's where we get the Arctic, the North Pole up here at the top. It's much colder. And the South Pole way down at the bottom of our globe, much colder. So the parts in the middle are where we're going to say that it has a hot climate. Okay, so places like South America that rest right on the equator are much hotter, or at least the northern part of South America, right? The south part of South America is getting much closer to these blue lines, so it is very, very cold. All right. What about a place like Africa? Where do you think it lies on this world map? Where would we put Africa? Isaki?
Closer to the equator?
Yeah, closer to the equator. It goes about right here. Okay, here's Africa. So nice and hot. Okay, but we have Russia. Russia's gonna be way up here. So is Russia hot or cold?
Cold, freezing.
Cold. Freezing cold. It's getting way up close to Antarctica, up the North Pole. All right, and then we have places like the bottom of South America, like in Argentina, the tip. What's the climate down at the tip of Argentina?
Cold.
Cold. But what about when we move up into Brazil and Bolivia and Colombia? Yeah, hot, right? So where you are located on our globe determines the climate of your area, how hot or cold it's going to be normally. Okay, obviously there's some days that are cold here, but they're saying normally you're going to have more hot days in a place that is closer to the equator and more cold days on places that are further away from the equator. All right. The prime meridian, oh, we haven't got there quite yet. We're going to talk about the prime meridian in just a moment, but the prime meridian is like the equator, except that it's going the longitude way. Okay, so here is our prime meridian. Okay, it's going this way. All right. Okay, let's see. Marcos, can you read the next part? We're going to start where it says geographers chose down to the bottom of the page.
Oh, okay. Geographers chose the line of longitude that runs through England, France, and Western Africa, and labeled of 0 Fahrenheit. Geographers use this line known as the prime meridian as the starting point of measuring longitude. Places on the Earth are measured in degrees of longitude east or west from the prime meridian.
Good.
If you know the longitude or latitude or longitude of a place, you can pinpoint it on a map. Wherever the ray of the sun strikes the earth straight on, the climate is usually warmer than in other places. The sun is directly overhead, so its rays warm the atmosphere more. At the equator, the sun is always more nearly direct overhead than in any other place on Earth. As a result, places near the equator usually have warm climates. The sun does not uh, um, uh, always shine directly on the Earth at the same place. The Earth titles on its
Tilt.
axis as the Earth orbits the sun. This tilt brings either the northern or the southern hemisphere closer to the sun.
Okay, let's
On-
stop right there on June 21st.
Okay.
Good. Thank you, Marcos. Genesis, do you have a question? Okay. So here at the top of our paper, I drew a compass, right? That tells us that north is up at the top, south is at the bottom, west is over on this side, and east is on this side. Remember, our prime meridian starts at 0 and it goes up and down on the line of longitude, right in the middle. From that way, we would say that there's like 1 and 2, just like on a chart, like we do in math. And each line, we would say 1 east, 2 east, and then we would say the longitude or the latitude, and it would have 1 or whatever number is assigned that line. Just like when we play Battleship. Raise your hand if you've ever played Battleship. Right? And you tell the person, okay, I say B3, and where those two meet, you either tell them hit or miss, right? If they hit your boat or they miss your boat. The same is true on a map. You might say 0 degrees by 2 degrees east, and if they hit, then that's where you're in Eastern Europe or something. Okay, so we use those lines on a map to tell us where we're talking about a place and also a climate. If you turn your page now to page 60, you can see some of those lines on the map that's on page 60. It says the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. Those are 2 other lines that were given specific names. Okay, most of the lines on the map are just given numbers. But we have the equator and the prime meridian, and then up above the equator at 23.5 degrees north is the Tropic of Cancer. You can see it runs right through Mexico and through Cuba. And then 23.5 degrees south of the equator, we have the Tropic of Capricorn that runs through Chile and Paraguay and the top of Argentina and Brazil. All right. Lots of times people talk about things that are lying on those lines on a map. Okay, those lines were given names. We're going to read about those 2 lines on this next page. Okay, so would someone like to read on the next page for us, nice and clear? All right, Vic, go ahead. It says we just stopped with on June 21st, and now we're going to start on the first column on page 60, where it says the Northern Hemisphere.
The North Hemisphere is at its greatest tidal towards the sun, where this greatest tilt towards the sun, where this occurs, the rays of the sun strike the earth straight on 23.5 north latitude What does it say, Miss?
Latitude.
Latitude. The latitude line at 23 1/2 degrees north is called the Tropical of Cancer. The Tropical of Cancer, which runs through the middle of Mexico, is the farthest point north, where the sun shines directly overhead on December 22, when the northern hemisphere is at the greatest tilt towards the sun. The sun's rays hit the earth straight on 23.5 degrees south latitude. The tropical of Capricorn is the farthest point south where the sun shines directly overhead.
Good. All right. So here's our Earth, right? Looks like a Coke bottle, but we're going to pretend it's the Earth. Okay. If it tilts, it's moving like this. Okay. Here's tilting. Tilt, tilt. So they're saying on the 20th or the 21st of June, it's tilting so that this line up here is getting the most sun. Okay, this is the Tropic of Cancer. Okay, and then it tilts the other way so that this line on the, what was the other date?
December 22nd.
Thank you. December 22nd is getting the most sun. Okay, so that's what they're talking about. They're saying in June, up here is getting the most sun, the Tropic of Cancer. And in December, this line down here, the Tropic of Capricorn, is getting the most sun. Okay, because our Earth not only turns and rotates, it also tilts on its axis. So the equator always gets a lot of sun, but depending on which way the Earth is tilting, determines whether the Tropic of Cancer or the Tropic of Capricorn is getting more sun. Okay, so it's almost December. So which one is getting more sun right now? The Tropic of Cancer or the Tropic of Capricorn? Genesis? Good, the Tropic of Capricorn, right? Because it's at Christmas time. Right? It's December. So the Earth is tilting this way and we're getting more sun at the Tropic of Capricorn and less sun at the Tropic of Cancer. Yeah. It's not that the Earth is turning all the way upside down. It's just tilting on its axis. Okay, the axis is what holds it in the middle. Okay, let's read just that last part. Lucas, do you want to read? Lucas, do you want to read? Matthias, you want to read again?
Yes.
All right. Where it says
Where?
wherever the rays on the last column on page 60.
Where?
Or, sorry, last column on page, where am I? Where did we stop? Oh, sorry. On page 60 where it says the area between, the second column.
Okay. The area between these two tropics covers a distance of about 1,600 miles or 2,575 kilometers on each side of the equator. Most of this area enjoys warm climates. Altitude. Altitude is the height of a place above the sea. Altitude greatly influences climate. Usually, the closer a place is to the sea level, the warmer it is. Places higher in the mountains are cooler. In general, the temperature drops 3.5 Fahrenheit for each 1,000 feet to Celsius per 300 meters above sea level. This is why the climate of Quito is cooler than the climate of Guayaquil. Guayaquil is near sea level, while Quito is over 9,000 feet, 2,750 meters above sea level. High in a valley in the Andes Mountains, Quito is the higher altitude makes it typical about 30 Fahrenheit or 17 Celsius. Cooler than Guayaquil. Both cities are near the equator, so their temperatures do not change much from season to season, but Quito's altitude makes it climate cooler.
Good. Okay, that's true about here too, right? Is it hotter in Santa Cruz or hotter in La Paz?
In Santa Cruz,
In Santa Cruz, right? Why?
because it's more closest to the sea level, and La Paz is higher
Right.
from the
It has a
sea
higher
level.
altitude. Good. All right. Now we're going to answer our questions together. So everybody needs your piece of paper. All right. And we're looking at the questions in your book that are on page 60. But if you don't have your questions, I will write them up on the board.
Do we put section activities or
Yes.
study exercise?
You can put
4.1?
study exercises 4.1. Just study EX for short. I will. Okay, study exercises 4.1. Number 1 says, explain how weather is different from climate. Okay, so everybody should be able to write that down because we talked about it at the beginning of class. Explain how weather is different than climate. Okay. You need to use complete sentences that make sense. Do not just say one word answers. Okay, use a sentence. You might need 2 sentences. I don't know, but you're gonna say how weather is different than climate. Okay, and then we talked a lot about the lines of latitude. Jihoon, you have a question?
Do we need to upload this?
Yes. You're gonna submit this to Moodle in social studies today. Okay, so you can write out on a piece of paper your answer to number 1. Okay, explain how weather is different than climate. Number 2, explain how latitude affects climate. Okay, we talked about that already, so you should know how where you are on a map affects the climate. Remember how if you're close to the equator, what happens, or when you're farther away from the equator, what happens? Okay, that's what you're putting in number 2. Number 3, find and copy 2 sentences that explain how altitude affects climate. You don't have to copy if you don't have a book, but you need to explain how altitude, that's how tall something is, like a mountain, or how flat it is, like the sea level, affects climate. Okay, that's what Matthias just read to us. All right, take a moment, work on that. I will be right back.
Seven. I Miss.
Yep, Matthias.
I forgot what was latitude. Latitude is the height of the sea level, or
No, altitude is the height.
oh, and what is latitude? I forgot.
Latitude is the lines that go this way across the world. So like the equator, the line of Capricorn.
Oh, yeah. Now I know. Okay.
All right. The last thing that I want you to do is to answer that question at the bottom that says, does longitude affect climate? And then you have to tell me why. Okay, so you think about it. Does longitude affect the climate? And then why do you think that? Okay, that's the last question. Genesis, you have a question? Isaki, you have a question?
Miss,
Yes.
what's the name of the longitude? You have the equator, and latitude you have the. I forgot the name of it.
Latitude goes the equator, the Tropic of Cancer, the Tropic of Capricorn. The longitude has the prime meridian, and it goes up and down. Matthias, you have a question?
Can we the last one do it like in breakout rooms or something?
Nope. When you're done, you may go. All right. And then you have your Spanish class at 2 o'clock. All right. So once
Okay.
you finish answering those 4 questions, then you are dismissed